Hello and welcome everybody to the Rumcast. My name is John Gulla. With me as always is Will Hookinga, and together we are the podcast that talks all things rum related with the people who love and shape it. And today is a very special episode for maybe a few reasons. One is we're doing something brand new, Will, which is really cool. And two is if you're not watching this on YouTube, well, you may want to go over to YouTube because there's definitely a lot more video element to what we are doing. It's finally time for the DAC Brack.
The DAC Brack Round 1. This is the classic daiquiri branch of this insane bracket that we're doing, where ultimately we're going to end up comparing head-to-head 32 different rums in daiquiris. And we're starting today with 8 rums, John. This is the classic side of the bracket. And we mentioned which rums these would be for the most part in our announcement episode, where we were kind of picking the field. We ended up making a few audibles on the classic side of the bracket just based on audience feedback. Our Patreon members were very helpful here. Our People's Choice vote was very helpful here as well. So we actually, the rum that ended up winning the People's Choice vote was Brugal Extra Dry, which I think between the two of us, John, we probably went to 8 different liquor stores across the Nashville and Miami areas. And that rum is just it's a ghost now in these two markets. So we were unable to source it. So you ended up grabbing Barceló Blanco, which is another Dominican Republic rum. And really like the thing that I think made us maybe a little hesitant about it is that it is like all Barceló products a cane juice rum, which, you know, classic daiquiri cane juice rum. We have a cane juice side of the bracket. Why did we put it here? Ultimately, if you've tasted Barceló products before, they're very much not like in the style of a rum agricole or something like that. Their distillation really strips out a lot of that cane flavor, where I would honestly say it's much closer to a molasses rum in terms of like that kind of clean profile as opposed to cane juice. So we slotted that in. We've also got, I'm going to step over to the official DAC Brack board over here. We've got Bacardi Superior versus Bacardi Heritage in a Bacardi face-off. We've got Havana Club 3 versus Don Q Cristal. So we're kind of calling this the Cuba, Puerto Rico region of this bracket. This branch over here. We'll end up picking our favorite of these 4. And then over here, we've got Flor de Caña, Extra, Seco. We have Hamilton White Stache. We'll come back to that in a second. Diplomatico Planas, and the aforementioned Barceló Blanco. Hamilton White Stache, this is where our Patreon community really came in handy. I know our patron Lyle gave us a great email just kind of stumping for putting Hamilton White Stache in with these rums, as that rum was kind of intended to kind of give bartenders a good alternative to something like Bacardi. And it's predominantly column still Trinidad rum. There's a little Guyana and a little Dominican Republic in there as well. But it's sort of like flavor profile wise, like really fits in with these rums. So ultimately we decided to put it in over
it's
here.
hard because with this stuff, you know, no matter what you do, you're going to have a little bit of difference here or there. And Will and I probably spent way too long already on trying to line these things up perfectly. And there's probably no perfect way to do it. But that said, I think, like you said, these are what we feel are classic in style in ways. And maybe that's a good place to start, Will, is explaining what do we mean by classic and what do you think classic means?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit in the announcement episode, kind of wanted to revisit it. So classic daiquiri, and again, just disclaimer, John and I are not cocktail historians, daiquiri historians. We are daiquiri enjoyers, which is really the emphasis of this episode. But
I have a black belt in daiquiri enjoying for sure.
Yeah. So classic daiquiri is really sort of the style of the drink that made it super popular, you know, when it came out of Cuba and exploded during the 20th century. And that's that crisp, clean, refreshing style where it's not necessarily about showcasing these like big, bold rum flavors and that sort of thing, but it's that cleaner profile. And so you see a lot of Latin American countries here. You see a lot of multi-column distillation. This is not the bracket for the rum fires of the world, which I know some people out there listening will say, if you make a daiquiri with rum fire, that's not a daiquiri. But other people will say, actually, it is a daiquiri. So again, it's kind of like trying to figure out how to arrange all this and do everything was really kind of like playing whack-a-mole. Like John said, it's like, well, we move something here. It's like, oh, well, like this is kind of technically doesn't fit the definition 100%, but we're having fun with it. And I think what we have are 8 rums that are closely enough related in flavor profile for it to make sense for them to go against each other. And it's a combination of stuff that's ubiquitous. So rums that maybe we wouldn't usually recommend or co-sign, but we want to put them to the test and taste them head to head because we so rarely do that. Like I've never put Bacardi Superior and Bacardi Heritage next to each other. I've never tasted Havana Club 3 right after having a Bacardi daiquiri. So I think it's a great way to sort of confront some of our biases we may have and actually see, like, is this one that I think in my head is better? Do I actually think that when I taste them closely?
And you hit the nail on the head when you're talking about these aren't necessarily our favorite rums that we want to then throw into this bracket and see who wins. It's much more of the idea of what are those pervasive, prevalent rums that are out there, in this style especially, that when you go to a bar and you order a daiquiri, what is it likely that they are using in that case? And so you have an idea of what to expect, and then we're just trying to throw those all together, see if we can maybe suss out a few things and some differences there, and what is more to our taste as rum enthusiasts, and what are some things that might either surprise us about rums, both good and bad in this case, or different kind of, ideas of what that is. So like you said, classic also can mean a little bit like light-bodied here, clean. We're not talking about neutral, but not overpowering, like you mentioned with Rum Fire and some of those. So I think that's important to keep in mind that that's what this branch or the classic bracket is intended for.
By the way, we're streaming this live. This will be released for the general audience, but we're doing a live stream for our Patreon members. So we've got this great chat going that we're trying to keep up with. And Meredith popped in and said, "This feels like rum church. All of us gathered here today to pay homage to the holy trinity of rum, lime, and sugar." So,
dearly beloved.
That's great. Yeah, exactly.
I was going with
gathered
Prince,
here today to go through this crazy thing called the daiquiri bracket. Okay.
That's how we should have opened it. Damn it.
Yeah, I know.
Let's go back
Can we
in
get
and
the
edit.
licensing from Prince's estate?
I think we can do it.
Prince would have been if Prince had a celebrity rum, I would have bought it. Okay, we're gonna start mixing drinks really quickly, but a couple other things that we wanted to hit on real quick. We got a lot of questions about just like, how are y'all going, like what daiquiri specs are you gonna use? How are you gonna keep everything consistent? So we wanted to talk about that real quickly. John, do you want to share with people, what's your go-to daiquiri spec? What are you doing for these rums today?
Yeah, I'll start with my spec and then I'll talk a little bit about the philosophy behind it. Recognizing that I am neither a bartender nor a mixologist and don't even approach any of those terms really. It is well known, in fact, for people that have listened to this podcast for a while that I'm pretty terrible at making cocktails usually. But I do feel like the daiquiri is one of those cocktails that is simple enough that I am able to pull it off pretty regularly and pretty decently. So I have some confidence in this case. My spec that I've gone to and I use is 2 ounces of rum, 3/4 of lime, and a half ounce of simple, but 1.5 to 1 ratio. So it's not a rich 2 to 1, it's not a regular 1 to 1, it's right in the middle. And I think for me, that gives me that a little bit, tiny bit more sweetness that I'm looking for, but also reduces the amount of dilution in the drink, as if it were like a 1 to 1. So that helps me to kind of get where I want in terms of the balance of the drink, which I think that's one of the most important aspects, and we'll talk about criteria, but it's no secret that a daiquiri has to be balanced to be good, right? I think everybody can agree on that. In terms of method, so I've really tried hard to stick to reducing the amount of variables as best we can with this. A shout out to Lyell, who's a listener who we had on our happy hour talking about some of the methodology and how we can engineer the heck out of this. So I did a couple of things to keep the least amount of variables possible. One is I say we because I know you did this also. We batched our limes, right? So instead of just cutting one lime and using it, we did do a batch just recently, so it's fresh lime juice, right? That's important. And so we can have that consistency across the way. We're also, I measured by weight, The
This
ice.
is next level. Yeah, when you showed me this, I was a little like, damn, you're making me look bad over here.
I used my little handy dandy scale that my wife was glad enough to pick up for me recently and make sure that I could get close in terms of the amount of ice that is going into the shaker each time. And it's the same ice, right? So it's a bag of cocktail ice that I have the same ice for. So that was important for me to also make sure that we are filling the same amount and achieving close to similar dilution with it. Now, you also have to, shake the same amount of times. You have to do a lot of things in terms of the process the same as well. So I think I'm in what I feel is a good place overall for having them be similar enough. What about you, Will? Did you do anything different other than that to achieve what you're looking for?
Well, my spec is very close to yours, and some people did ask us, like, are y'all going to use the exact same spec? And our philosophy ended up being, I see the logic with that, but ultimately I think we each need to we're each judging like which daiquiris we enjoy the most, right? So I think with that in mind, we need to engineer each daiquiri according to our own tastes and like how much lime, how much sweetness, we like in our drinks. And my preferred spec is very close to yours. It's actually the exact same measurements. The only difference is that my half ounce of simple syrup is a 1-to-1 simple syrup. And this is just standard sugar. It's not Demerara or anything like that.
Same.
So that was kind of our one of our rules was just rum, lime, and sugar for this. So I know like saline solution can be something that really like helps daiquiris pop. We're leaving that out this time and just keeping it as simple as possible. So real quickly, last question before we jump into the first matchup. What is your criteria for a good classic daiquiri? What are you going to be looking for when we're tasting and comparing these?
So, like I said, I think a daiquiri is one of those drinks that really is emblematic of the area. For me, even in Miami, Florida here, it's something that I'm used to in the sense of like what to expect. Of course, we know that there are many ways to make a daiquiri terrible, and those exist down here just like everywhere. But I think what I'm looking for at the end of the day is when we make a classic daiquiri, something that is crisp, it's refreshing, it's balanced, as we said before, and easy to drink, right? Those are, and that's nothing that is going to be radically different than anybody who's probably thought about this themselves. I think for me, the thing that I look for is, do I want to take another sip? And if I finish that drink, do I want to order another one right away? And that's really the differentiator from like a good daiquiri to a great daiquiri. So that's kind of where I'm at with the criteria. How about yours?
Mine is basically exactly the same as that. I wrote crisp, refreshing. I don't want mine. I think what you said there is really great. Of like, I want to keep taking sips and like almost. It's almost like I'm drinking this too fast. Is kind of what I want it to make me feel like. And the other thing for me, which kind of goes back to what I was talking about with the ratio that I prefer, is I don't want it to be like a super soft, like all-round drink. I want it to have like a little bit of an edge, a tiny bite. It's not supposed to be a drink where it's like, ooh, that's a stiff kind of bracing drink. I can really feel the alcohol. I don't think this style of daiquiri is supposed to be like that, but I do want to feel the rum's presence, at least in it, in balance with the other ingredients. So that's it for me. I want to get something from the rum. I don't want the rum to totally disappear, even though these rums are meant to, it's not meant to stand out like a rum fire. So, but I do want to know it's there. I do want to taste some of the subtleties of it. I don't want it to just kind of like wash out in everything else. So, that's what I'm looking for.
Well, for a rum podcast like us, definitely that matters, right? Obviously, the rum and the qualities that it brings are going to be heavily weighed into the criteria. So, absolutely with you. All right, so are we ready to start here?
I think so. And our first matchup is going to be Bacardi Superior. This is
we need graphics.
Ubiquitous.
It pushes it up on the screen.
This is the ubiquitous bottle that you see in every liquor store, certainly in the United States, and many internationally as well. And we're matching this up. John, do you have that beautiful Bacardi Heritage bottle for us?
I do, yes.
Yes.
Here's your Bacardi Heritage.
These two rums, obviously made in a very similar style. These are blends of different column still rum distillates. The Bacardi Superior is aged 1 to 2 years and then charcoal filtered. It's made in Puerto Rico in their facility outside San Juan, and it's 40% ABV. Whereas Heritage I'm assuming the blend of rums that they use is a little bit different. I don't know for sure. It's kind of hard to get specific details on Bacardi rums. Also lightly aged and charcoal filtered. One of the major differences is it was made in Bacardi's Mexico facility.
Right.
And then the other major difference is it's 44.5% ABV. So a decent step up there. But we thought it just made sense to start with these two Bacardi stalwarts.
Yeah, the chances you're going to get a Bacardi product in a daiquiri are pretty high. And like you were saying earlier, it's not a rum that we typically gravitate towards. But I'm going to tell you right now, I haven't tried these yet, and this is the first time I'm going to A/B these as we do them in a daiquiri. But the Bacardi Heritage product that I've tried this in the past and been blown away by it, really, in terms of the qualities that it's brought versus my recollection of what a Bacardi Superior daiquiri or a drink would be. So now we get to put that to the test in terms of just not memory, but actually doing it side by side. I'm excited.
Yep. All right, so we each need to, we went ahead and portioned these out in advance. Now we just need to mix them up.
So Will, let me know when you're ready, and I'm going to start with the Bacardi Superior. And then we'll move on
I gotta be sure I remember which daiquiri is which.
They do look very similar.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna start with the Superior as well.
Cheers.
Salud.
So this might be a good time to mention that as we're drinking these, our goal is not to drink the entire thing, because as you can imagine, we're doing 8+ today. So this might get a little more fun than we realize if we were to drink all of these and down them all. So my goal is to try to take like 2 or 3 sips of these and then have some reserve to go back to later if we need it.
Do we want to talk about each one or kind of like drink them both and compare them that way?
I think in a head-to-head like this, we can probably drink a little bit of both and talk through some of that rather than one-to-one, especially if we're trying to preserve a little bit of the having both fresh.
Okay, that's the Heritage.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's an appropriate reaction. I will say, when I had the Bacardi Superior daiquiri, it was fine. There was nothing that stood out as bad about it. Yeah. But the rum, I was kind of searching for the rum and its presence a little bit more than I wanted to be. Whereas the Heritage, it was like a great mix right off the bat for me. As soon as it entered, I was like, there's the kind of balance in the rum that I'm looking for.
Yeah,
what about you?
I have to say I don't think there's a real contest here. I'm with you in that the Bacardi Heritage product, you can taste the rum, and in the Bacardi Superior, you really can't. And I think in many ways, they may have engineered that product to be that way for people who are less inclined to wanting to even taste the rum. I mean, I do think what I will say for it is it's a perfectly good daiquiri. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't get anything off. I don't get anything bad. It's just very basic and plain. There's nothing that I find in here that I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. It's just kind of like, yep, got it. So if I were served this in a bar, I don't think I would be mad and like tell them like, hey, this is not a good drink, but I wouldn't be enthused to order another one. Whereas when you go to the Heritage, like you said, immediately you taste the rum there, but it's still in a good balance with the other 2 ingredients.
Kim on the live stream said people love a vodka daiquiri, and that's kind of how I feel about the Bacardi Superior daiquiri. And the Heritage, I'll say, it's not like you're getting a ton of interesting rum flavors.
No.
But you're getting the presence, and I do get like a little bit of this kind of like soft coconut note on it. That I enjoy how that's kind of playing with the lime right now. So for me, I would be, if I got the Bacardi Superior daiquiri, I would be like, okay, this is fine. It's quenching my my thirst. It's a nice refreshing drink. Whereas this one, I would be like, this is good, and I'm getting the rum, and there's a little bit more to enjoy here.
Yeah. What I think is interesting is I don't feel like the Heritage product is just Bacardi Superior up by 4.5% ABV. There's still something slightly different about it, and just it kind of brings a good flavor that I don't find in the Superior product alone. So it's like you might be tricked into thinking like, oh, they just put this product out as, you know, a little bit higher ABV. There's definitely a slight difference there that I think in my mind gets me closer, although I'll reserve some comments here, gets me closer to a Havana Club 3.
We'll see. All right, I think it's time to move on to those. I think we can agree we're both in the Bacardi Heritage camp over here. Do we want to give these a quick like 1 out of 10 score?
Yeah, I think so. And I may even add in some cases where I have to start dithering up a point something. So I'm thinking in this case the Bacardi Superior feels like a 4.5 to me.
I would probably give it a 5 out of 10. Yeah, it's perfectly fine. Just nothing to write home about. Where's Heritage at for you?
So I'm floating around a 6.5 right now. By the way, we should say with these scores, this is something that we do initially, but also once we've started to build in the exercise, we've done this before in our other stuff. We may go back and revise just because you get more context and you can kind of think it through. But right now, I think I'm around a 6.5 or maybe even 6.75 in and around there.
Okay, I think I would give it a 7.
So believe it or not, I thought you were going to be meaner to these than I am, but yeah, it sounds like
again,
I'm
grading these. I'm grading these on a classic daiquiri scale, right?
Okay.
So, in my mind, it's how successful is this at being a classic daiquiri? So, it's not like it would be a rum fire daiquiri to me that's a 10, you know, compared to these. It's like they're on different scales. So, for me, the Bacardi Heritage makes a pretty damn good classic daiquiri. So, 7 out of 10, yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, I get that. I feel like sometimes I go too high too quickly, so I'm trying to maybe reduce that a little bit. We'll see. Okay.
All right. Cool. Coming up next, Don Q and Havana Club. Shake up my Don Q daiquiri. So these two rums, Don Q, obviously a Puerto Rican classic, the best-selling rum on the island of Puerto Rico. It's 40% ABV, another blend of column distilled rums. Actually, the major difference, I would say, between this and Bacardi is that their blend is aged 1.5 to 5 years. So a much higher ceiling on the aging, of course, filtered after that. And Havana Club 3, the Cuban classic. I think this is the one, John, that like, if you're talking about the classic daiquiri, this is the one that a lot of people just kind of go to right away as this is the emblematic one. This is the one that you should go to. And so part of the thought behind this bracket was, let's find out if we actually think that when we compare them so closely to one another.
Does it qualify as F around and find out? Does that qualify as a FAFO?
I don't think this does. No, I don't. We're not fucking around here.
We're not?
No, this is serious. A lot of prep went into this.
Serious work.
This one also 40% ABV and aged at least 3 years, hence the 3 Tres Años there on the label. And I'm guessing slightly different filtration methods given the sort of straw-like color of this one relative to the pure clear of the Bacardi
It's
rums.
really the only one. That's what I was saying earlier, that the color on this is distinct from the rest of the 7 that we have next to it. All of the other ones read to me as completely clear, whereas this one has that yellow strawish color.
I'm going to start with the Don Q, I think, John.
Okay.
Go over to the Havana Club. Huh.
Yeah. So this is a pretty big difference also.
Yeah, a much bigger difference than I was anticipating, actually.
Yep. So the Don Q, starting off with that one, is reading closer to the Bacardi Superior.
Yeah.
I'd still feel like it's like a teeny bit, because on the second sip, I started to get the rum a little bit, whereas
Yep.
on 2 or 3 sips of the Bacardi Superior, I didn't. But it's pretty close to being just fine.
Yep.
Then you go to this Havana Club 3, and it's a different flavor entirely. It really comes out, and it has a little bit of a nose. I've been nosing these, which, daiquiris don't really typically have much of a nose to them, but the Havana Club 3, actually, you can smell a difference.
You can smell a difference and you can taste a big difference, as you
Absolutely.
were saying. The rum is really alive in this one, which is so interesting because, they're both 40% ABV, but man, and even comparing back to the Bacardi Heritage, the amount of rum flavor in this
Correct.
daiquiri is a lot higher. I think if you tasted someone who isn't really a rum person, doesn't drink that often, and you line these up, this is the first one where I think they would be like, "Whoa, taste the liquor in that one," And that's
Yeah.
not even from a strength perspective, because I do think the Bacardi Heritage Daiquiri drinks stronger, like there's more alcohol presence, which isn't that big of a surprise. It's 4.5% step up in ABV, but this one, rum flavor wise, it really stands out.
I'm with you. I don't have anything bad to say about it. It feels to me like a quintessential daiquiri. Like
Yeah.
if I was in heaven and someone up in heaven was serving me a daiquiri, this would be the daiquiri that would come to me.
So that means it's a 10 out of 10 for you, right? You just compared it to, it's the afterlife daiquiri. It has to be a 10 out of 10, right?
I mean, I wrote down literally 9.5, but now that you're telling me that, yeah, it's kind of hard not to go 10 out of 10.
There's so much more flavor here. And it goes beyond, like the Don Q, I get more flavor in that one than the Superior. I get there's like more of a vanilla presence in it. Maybe that's because some of the rums in the blend are aged longer. I don't know, just speculating. But it's still like a very light, like kiss of vanilla in the drink. Whereas this one, it's that unaged rum flavor. Like you really get it, even though I know this is aged and filtered, but I'm more trying to convey the flavors you get from a young rum. You get some fruit, you do get some vanilla, but it has this, it feels alive, I would say. It just has some character to it.
I'm honestly a little disappointed in the Don Q here, and maybe that's because it is up against the Havana Club 3, so the comparison is there. But I feel like that's just a really kind of standard kind of, yeah, fine, similar to what we started with. And I'm not finding as much character in it as you right now. But again, I think it could be just because I'm so freaking high on the Havana Club. It was like, I want to finish this right now and pour another.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I don't disagree with you about the Don Q, but I think it's more meeting my expectations. I've never, when it comes to like we can, it's a whole different story if we're talking about aged products between Don Q and Bacardi.
Yeah.
I think Don Q's aged products blow Bacardi's out of the water. But when it comes to these flagship white rums from them, I don't think there's a ton of separation. I do give the edge to Don Q a little bit, but yeah, what did I gave Superior a 5. Like I would give the Don Q a 5.5, basically. I'm actually gonna put that in right now.
Yeah, I'm giving it a 5, which is technically I gave the Bacardi Superior 4.5. I'm giving Don Q a 5, and I'm going to change this Havana Club 3 to a 10. It's going to be hard to beat.
I'm gonna go 9, and kind of reserve the right to bump that up. Once we've tasted the full range, but I think we can safely go ahead and say Havana Club 3 over Don Q Cristal, and also over all the Bacardi products. I think if we were to rank these just going off our scores, it would be Havana Club 3, Gap, Bacardi Heritage, small gap, Don Q Cristal, and Bacardi Superior.
Agreed.
We've got our Cuba, Puerto Rico region champion over here at Havana Club 3, which means we can head to the next region.
All right. So
Florida
our next
Caña,
matchup here.
White Stache.
Yeah, the white Stache, and we are doing, is it Flor de Caña 4? Yep. And Will's got both
I want to
bottles
make a quick note about Flor de Caña 4, because this is so devious that it gets me. I forget about this. I just assume by default it's a 4-year-old rum,
Yep.
right? Flor de Caña 4. If you look closely on the label, though, you will notice it does not say 4
years old.
years. Right here, it says extra seco, which just means extra dry, I believe.
Correct.
Reserva number 4. Reserva number 4, John. So that is not an age statement. That's kind of a nothing statement, is what I would call it, actually. I don't know what it means.
It's a number.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
it's a number. So I can't say for sure how long this was aged, but don't call it Flor de Caña 4-year. I think that's what they want you to do, but it is not an age statement. And I think they do. I think they do this with some of their other rums too.
They definitely do, a lot of them, and I think there's even a legal thing out there, so we can't comment on that. But that's disappointing because I feel like in this case, just drop the 4 if that's the case. I don't understand the thinking. Well, sorry, I do understand the thinking, which is you're going to sell
know
more
what's
bottles.
going on,
right? But I really wish they would just think differently about that. I don't think that they make a terrible product. I just think that some of those practices are unfortunate.
Yeah, John in the chat pointed out they do it with the 12. Yeah, Richard says one of the key reasons I won't buy Flor de Caña drives me nuts. Yeah, and I think that's a totally reasonable philosophy for not buying a brand.
Yeah. So white Stache is our only multi-country origin in this bracket, correct?
In this bracket, yeah, we made kind of an exception for stylistic purposes with this one, as we mentioned earlier. But I'm excited to see how this one compares. I think both of us think very highly of Hamilton products. Ed's someone we've had on the podcast a couple of times over the years. And I mean, he's just a fixture of the rum community in the United States. And a big part of the reason why we have a lot of the rums available here today that we do. And that's his mustache right there on the label. Shout out Ed.
He knows his
mustache.
rum. Ed knows his rums. Nobody disputes that. And as you said, it's really important. It's not just about the products that he's brought in, but what he's done as a whole for rum in the United States is obviously super commendable and appreciated.
Yep. Shout out Ed. Remember, I'm going to have to switch up my glassware here. Got the fancy coupe glasses for this one.
Nice. Shout out to my hero wife, Melissa, who has been off-screen washing things for me. She's the real MVP.
All right, Flor de Caña.
Not used to working up a sweat during a podcast, John. All right, so just to give the specs on these rums, Flor de Caña, extra seco. This is a rum, a column distilled rum, distilled in Nicaragua, and aged we don't know how long. I can guarantee you it's not a minimum of 4 years. Otherwise, this would be an actual age statement. And filtered, of course. It's a totally clear rum, 40% ABV, whereas the Hamilton White Stache, as we said earlier, this is a blend of rums from Trinidad, the Dominican Republic, and Guyana. Ed has noted that the bulk of the blend is aged rum from Trinidad, filtered, of course. And one thing, he does also note that this is a blend of molasses and what he describes as sugarcane rums. I'm guessing that's the Dominican Republic component, and it's probably a similar style of cane juice distillate to the Barceló that we're going to be enjoying later. That's speculation on my part, but just kind of reading between the lines. Don't know the age of the rums before they're filtered, but I do know this is 43.5% ABV. So,
Will, I want
Yeah.
you to nose the white stash for me. Let me know if you get anything off of just nosing it.
I don't know I'm not really getting a whole lot when I nose them.
Well, for the white stash, this is the first time I'm getting something kind of unexpected in a daiquiri
Okay.
nose, which again, I don't nose daiquiris typically. I'm not going, oh, the nose, and I'm going to, even do my rating off of that. But I'm getting like an anise or licorice. It's faint, but it's there. It's interesting.
Well, whatever I'm not getting on the nose, I'm getting something good on the palate for the white stash daiquiri, the white stashery, I guess we could say.
White stackery? No, that doesn't
White
work.
stackery, yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So definite differences here. Will, I'm predicting this may be the first time we have some discussion.
All right. So the first thing I'll say, I'll start with Flor de Caña, and I will say it earns its extra Seco labeling. This to me is the driest of all the daiquiris that we've had. We had a question, Richard asking how much difference in ABV. Flor de Caña standard 80 proof, 40%, and White Stache is 43.5% or 87 proof. So a definite difference. But that Flor de Caña, it soaks up all that moisture in your mouth and dries it out. But in not in a bad way for me. It's a very just like, ooh, that's kind of refreshing,
It is. So that's the one thing, you just nailed it. I was going to say the Flor de Caña is very unexpectedly more refreshing than I expected it would be. Crisp, refreshing. It's meeting a lot of what I think of when I think of a classic daiquiri. I'm kind of taken aback by how it's actually quite good. For me, the White Stache is also really good, but it's bringing something different. It's reading slightly different to me. It's got more depth.
Yeah.
It's maybe a little bit more complex and interesting, but it doesn't. When I'm doing these two together, I don't get the same crisp, refreshing feeling I do from the Flor de Caña.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I will definitely co-sign different experiences entirely between these two rums. The White Stache for me, it has a richer texture for me.
It does.
The mouthfeel.
It does.
It's not drying out the mouth like the Flor de Caña does, so it doesn't read as crisp. But it replaces that with more rum presence and flavor. To me, I would describe this drink as a well-rounded daiquiri. Not necessarily, I'm not saying round in terms of like a round flavor profile, although it is rounder to me than the Flor de Caña. But this one is a well-rounded one. It's still a balanced cocktail, whereas the Flor de Caña, I'm not saying it's unbalanced, but it's just very much, it's like all crisp, all refreshing. I don't really get the actual flavor of the rum at all. I put it more in kind of like the Bacardi Superior territory in terms of like how much I'm getting from the rum, other than, the dryness that it's producing in the drink. But I do like it. It's very nice and refreshing. But I think White Stache, I'm trying to think of how to describe what the rum is bringing here in terms of flavor. I'm gonna go back for another drink.
And while you're doing that, I think you're not wrong about the Flor de Caña not giving me a lot of amazing rum flavor. It feels to me like this is allowing the balance of the three ingredients to shine well, and almost like if that's the intent of the product, and obviously I can't know what they're trying to do, but it feels like if their intent was to make a balanced daiquiri in the sense of something pleasurable, something giving you exactly what you expect, it's pulling that off. As we talked about, we both have some issues with Flor de Caña and some of the things that they do. But I will say, in terms of a drink, this is very good. It is commendably good.
The White Stache for me, The Flor de Caña is really accentuating the lime and bringing that out.
It is.
Full force. I think what the rum is doing in the White Stache Daiquiri, obviously lime is always the dominant flavor you're going to get in this style of daiquiri, but it brings these other kind of tropical fruit accents, a little bit of coconut, almost like a mango-ish kind of vibe.
Yeah.
And again, I'm talking about accents. These aren't, those aren't coming forward like they would, and I keep going back to like a rum fire daiquiri. It's not like that. It's a totally different experience, but it's bringing out more of that to me, while still also being like a refreshing drink. And it does have some crispness, just not the same. It's, different universe from the Flor de Caña. So my preference, they're both good. I think I would reach for the White Stache Daiquiri more often than the Flor de Caña Daiquiri.
So I think I see where you're going. To me, it depends. And I'm kind of splitting hairs a little bit, and you'll see that in my ratings in a second. I think this is the first time where I see the actual difference between what I'm going to say is a straight up daiquiri and a rum sour.
Oh. Is
Because-
Richard Nicholson somewhere? Did he just
sure he-
feel his spidey senses tingling? he says, "Thank you, John," with a million exclamation
Don't
points.
thank me too
in the
quickly
chat.
yet, Richard, because I've been back and forth with regards to I get his argument logically, but I had never experienced it before now. And
Yeah.
now I think it's starting to meet my experience of I kind of think I understand where this is going. It is subtle. So let's make it clear. I'm not saying this is oh, wow, I would take one sip and go, nope, rum sour. Maybe Richard would do that, but I'm not there yet. But what I would say is when you do them back to back, and in this context, that's where it starts to pop out a little bit more. So I really feel like now I'm my brain is giving me a little bit of well, we're in a classic daiquiri bracket. And if we're doing a classic daiquiri bracket, I'm at roughly believe it or not, for the Florida, I'm really surprised, an 8.
Wow.
And the Hamilton White Stache, I'm at a 7.5 because it's really good. But I'm not sure that it's giving me the same elements of the daiquiri. So this is a real surprise for me. I was not expecting this.
One question for you. How would you compare the White Stache with the Havana Club 3 experience?
Havana Club 3 would dominate it still, for me.
I mean, in terms of rum flavor.
So it's hard because rum is so broad, right? And it's obvious with the White Stache that this is a multi-origin. Let me step back from saying it's obvious. I'm not sure I'd blind taste test it and know, but there's something different. And that something different is very well executed. It is really good. I can see why this product flies off shelves because it brings what it needs to bring. The question in my mind is starting to grow from that little kernel of but is it a daiquiri?
A daiquiri, yeah.
That's the part where I'm actually, for the first time in the glass, experiencing this feeling.
You're seeing the light in real time, the rum sour daiquiri difference. So I'll say for me, it's a different profile from the Flor de Caña, but I still think flavor profile wise, to me, it doesn't feel like it's coming from a different family of drink than the other ones. For me, it feels very close in terms of the amount of difference in rum flavor compared to all the other ones that we've had so far.
Yeah.
It's giving me a similar experience to the Havana Club. I'm not saying that Havana Club and White Stache taste the same, because they don't. But in terms of body and rum forward flavor, it's a similar experience to me as the Havana Club 3, to the point where if these were all blind in a lineup, I think I would identify both of those two as oh, those just have way more rum flavor than the other ones.
Yeah.
But they still kind of fit in this broad, they're still crisp, clean, refreshing drinks. it's not like I'm looking at White Stache and being like, I think this belongs more in like the Probitas kind of family. Like it's not that kind of flavor profile to me at all. It's not that loud and boisterous and kind of funky. I wouldn't describe this as funky at all. So for me, it's still very much like I don't see the rum sour daiquiri dichotomy as much as it sounds like you're experiencing.
Yeah. Well,
I see it from like if like obviously on paper it's a multi-country blend.
Yeah.
You know, it's got molasses and, you know, sugarcane rum in it. So I see like on paper, yeah, I could see by strict letter of the law being like, no, this is not a daiquiri, it's a rum sour. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I would give the White Stache an 8, and I would give Flor de Caña a 7, which puts it in line with the Bacardi Heritage. To me, I feel about the same between both of those rums.
That sounds about right. I think that's roughly. And when I go back and kind of taste through some of these, I might adjust some things as well. But I think we're pretty close in that respect. It's a hard thing because what we're talking about is the subjectivity of how you experience something, and then where does your brain draw the line in this area, right? So it's to put it into a different kind of way of looking at it. It's like, is it an African elephant and an Indian elephant difference, or is it like a kangaroo and a wallaby?
Yeah. Actually, I want to point out a comment that Christian left in the chat, where he asked, "What is a daiquiri then? Because if seeking clean flavor, then wouldn't the Don Q beat out the Havana Club?" And I think that's kind of what I was getting at with. That's why I brought up Havana Club to compare to White Stache, because if it's just about the presence of rumminess and that coming through more, to me, White Stache and Havana Club 3 are in the same ballpark. Although I would say like the Havana Club 3, the strength of the rum in that one, the flavor in it is still more intense to me than White Stache.
No, so, well, it's a good question that Christian asked, and that's not kind of what I'm trying to portray. What I'm saying is that there is a certain flavor profile and that certain rum styles naturally fit into that flavor profile, and some would start to leak outside of it, right? Or just altogether be outside of it. And where your brain draws the line may not be where somebody else's draws the line, which is an interesting thing in and of itself. And so again, I really, like, I wasn't expecting to be in this position right now. I was honestly more of the like, yeah, I get it by the letter of the law, like you were saying earlier, of like does not fit that. But I'm surprised to see kind of how my brain has kind of seen the difference between these two, and if that will continue, right? So that's the big deal. Sometimes you can go one way and then maybe you come back to it a different day and you feel differently, or over time, there is really a separation there. It's interesting either way.
I have to say, like, the level, I just keep drinking this White Stache daiquiri, which is why we're going to have to move on, because like I don't want to finish the whole thing. But it's one that I just want to keep drinking that. I had to bump my score up to an 8.5 just now. I'm really enjoying it.
Well, you already had the tiebreaker, so don't feel pressure because you were by a half point. I think
hey, wait, that wasn't even entering into the picture. And this is part of the reason why we were scoring these, because John and I were on the phone on Thursday and we're like, you know, generally we've done a good job at reaching consensus with stuff, but it just feels like daiquiris are more subjective than just trying. I mean, obviously rum is subjective too, but that's why we decided to add a score where, just in case we couldn't come to a consensus. It sounds like for you have like the slight preference to the Flor de Caña between the two.
When we're talking about a classic daiquiri.
Okay, yeah. Whereas for me, the Hamilton White Stache, I think it fits into my view of a classic daiquiri like a little bit more than yours. Where to you it feels somewhat separate from that classic daiquiri profile. Is that right?
Mildly so, but yes.
Yeah. So who do we want to give the green check to?
Well, like we said when we were talking about it, I think scores and preference is how we were going to do that. So I think in this case, because of your rating being slightly higher, it goes to the Hamilton.
Okay. If you want to adjust yours right now, you can.
No, I want to reserve adjusting a little bit
Okay.
when we do at
Okay.
the end and we're doing all of them. But I promise you it will not be my intent to say, I'm going to boost this up by 1.5 points because that will move it forward. It's really
Okay,
trying
good.
to logistically figure out
Yeah.
where are all of these. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel you there. I'm not. It's not gamesmanship to try to get my preferred
Right.
rum here. It really is an 8.5 to me. So
I also feel like I'm okay with it in the sense of the Hamilton White Stache moving up if we ever consider doing a super bracket. And that
yeah,
would be fun to see it against others. Whereas the Florida Caña
totally.
4, I think, may have a more difficult time going up against some of those.
All right. Are we moving to our final matchup? The
We are.
Diplomatico Planas Barceló Blanco. I have to say, Planas was a rum that was on my list of I'm most interested to see how this rum does in the bracket. Because this is another kind of oddball rum, and we'll talk about, I mean, oddball relative to the other ones in the field. And we'll talk about that once we get them all mixed up. But that's not to slight the Barcelo. I'm still giving it a fair shot. But I know you've been a long time fan of Diplomatico Planas, John.
You know, funny enough, I've been a longtime fan of both of these in the sense of Diplomatico Planas specifically and Barcelo products generally. Because I think of those Dominican rums that are mainstream rums, Barcelo was one of the first ones that I tried that really got me to start thinking there's more to rum and led me into that. So there's a little bit of a soft spot for me there. And I just felt like it was more interesting without knowing way early on that it even was different in terms of production style.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's something there to Barcelo that I think they do a pretty good job overall with the rums that they release. I think they are drier than a lot of their islands' other products are. So, you know, for me, there's something there that I enjoy about them.
One other thing I meant to note with Florida Caña, you know, we were dinging them for the whole phony age statement thing. One thing I will give them slight kudos for is they do have 0 grams sugar there on the label. So, you know, a little bit of, it's nice to know that there's no sugar added to it.
Yeah.
Just because I think anytime people see mass market Latin American rums, you know, rum drinkers have a tendency to be like, are there additives in this? Just because they can be somewhat common in the category. But, you know, I think
Yeah.
that can be a false assumption a lot of the time. So,
And I agree that that's a good thing to call out, Will, because, you know, we do have problems with them and some other brands that add, you know, things to there and have false age statements and all that. But the ability for them to single something out as doing something good should be commended also, right? Sometimes
Sure.
it's like kind of like, well, because of this one thing, I'm throwing it entirely out the window. In a case where rum enthusiasts like us, we understand that, but cases where a person who is less into rum and sees something like that on a bottle, they may say, oh, wow, that's actually interesting, and follow up that thought because it's a mass market brand and find their way into better stuff. So I agree. I think it's a good call out to say that even though we are not fans of some of the practices from Florida Caña, it's good that they're making strides in good ways too.
time to shake these up. Okay, this is my Planas daiquiri. All right, Barcelo. So, let's talk specs. Diplomatico Planas. This is, again, we're going to get a little weird with these last two, which is why we ended up putting them together. But Diplomatico Planas, blend of column and jump scare pot still rums distilled from molasses and what they call sugarcane honey, which I think is fair to say is somewhat akin to a cane syrup. This is aged up to 6 years before it's filtered. It's made in Venezuela at Distillerías Unidas S.A. And the big thing, I mean, there's several big things there, but 47% ABV, John. So, you know, that was my big reservation, or not big, but my one reservation with putting it up against poor little 40% ABV Barceló.
Yeah.
It might get pummeled, but Barceló Blanco, on the other hand, a column distilled rum aged up to 2 years and filtered, made from sugarcane juice in the Dominican Republic, 40% ABV. But as we said, the cane juice profile in these Dominican rums is very much more akin to a molasses-based rum in terms of just what you're going to get from it. So I think, should we start with the Barceló?
I think that makes sense. I have no idea what to expect from this. This is the first one that I feel like no clue.
Yeah, after taking a few sips of that, I would say the way I described their approach to cane juice rum was totally fair. I would never in a million years guess that was a cane juice rum.
Yeah, I'm struggling to find a redeeming quality for now. You know, there's something really on the very end of it, maybe, with the Barceló, but it's not enough. Okay, let's Planas. I've been singing the praises of this rum for a while now.
Oh. Woo! Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
Okay, this is where I'm starting to feel daiquiri versus rum sour.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Talk to me. I think that distinction is totally fair. It was just that when you felt it between Flor de Caña and White Stache, I wasn't quite there yet.
Okay.
But for me, this one, man, first of all, that is a great fucking drink, is what I will say.
It's really
I'm going to say
good.
drink just because, and this is where it gets messy, right? Because, you know, if we want to talk about, I don't want to make Richard Nicholson mad at me. For anyone who's listening and is who is Richard Nicholson? If you haven't listened to the episode where we had Richard on a few years ago, Richard is a founder of the New Zealand Rum Society, and he has been working on a book on the daiquiri for a few years now. John has actually helped him with some research in that, digging into the archives there at the University of Miami. He is a daiquiri historian, I think it would be fair to call him.
Otherwise known as the Daiquiri Police.
The Daiquiri Police, yes. And is sort of the one who put the bug in our ear about the daiquiri versus rum sour distinction. The distinction being that a daiquiri is this, it's what we're kind of describing as the classic daiquiri, these clean, refreshing, column distilled rums. So where I was saying I might get into trouble is, you know, they had pot stills when they were starting out down there in Cuba.
They did.
You know, Bacardi. And there's pot still rum in this. Obviously, they weren't, I don't think they were still using pot stills when the daiquiri as a drink exploded in popularity. But I feel that kind of, I don't know if it could just be the step up in ABV. It could be the blend of pot and column. But there is just a body and a richness and a power to this drink that I haven't tasted in any of the others, I would say, to the same extent.
Yeah, I back you up on that. I mean, I think it's clear to me that the two outliers in this bracket are the Hamilton White Stache and the Planas. But I think, to me, this still reads more like a daiquiri than the White Stache.
Weird,
Maybe,
really?
Yeah. I don't disagree with you that when you're putting it up against these, there's a marked difference. The question is what's being presented in the glass closer but more, I'm trying to get the right word, like more effective is not the right word, but it's in the ballpark, right?
Yeah.
Still, but more tuned up to 11. Versus, is it, oh, it's really in a different ballpark. It's really good, but it's different. I need to drink a little bit more before I'm really settling on it.
That's, never a bad idea. I mean, sometimes it is, but not today. Tim from DC Rum Rebels had a great question in the comments where he said, does Planas get to count in the same league? This is a 2 to 6 year old rum that has been charcoal filtered to remain clear, but exists in a distinct realm apart from the other rums in this bracket. If anything, shouldn't Planas be in the modern daiquiri bracket? And I think that's 100% a fair argument, Tim.
It is.
And that we really went back and forth a lot on just which rums belong in which bracket. And honestly, having tasted it now, I think I would probably, if we were to redo these brackets, I would push for Planas to be in the modern category. And I think you're going to disagree with me, but White Stache to me is much closer to all the other daiquiris than Planas is. Whew. It's a great drink, I will say.
Yeah, it hits harder, right? It's got more flavor. It's got more depth to it. But I still find it to be very crisp, refreshing, balanced.
I agree. I agree with you. It still has a lot in common with those qualities that you and I listed out when we were first getting started. What do we look for? It's still, it's again, it's not at all like drinking next to a Probitas or
Correct. You're not going to mistake this for an overproof Jamaican.
Yeah, or even like a Holmes Key Fiji or something like that.
Correct.
In terms of, I'm naming some rums that people kind of really wanted us to have in the modern category. Some of which we do have in the modern category. Yeah, it's just kind of tough to place it. It has those crisp, refreshing qualities, but it has, like as you were saying, a depth and a body in it that I haven't found in a lot of these other rums. So I don't know. It's almost like in its own little in-between category. It's a modern classic. That's what it is, John. A modern classic.
I like
daiquiri.
it.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think, just the very nature of the exercise that we're doing here is going to present some of these difficulties. We could have taken eight, kind of BS flat rums and done those, but we decided to try to, put a little here and there in there to the best of our ability that we think matched. It's not perfect, but it's close enough, I think. So with that, what do you have for your scores for these?
Shit, I hadn't even been thinking about scores. I will say, we've been focusing on the Planas. The Barceló, to me, is really not cutting it. It's like in the ballpark of Bacardi Superior for me.
Yeah, I have it as a 4.
I'm going to give it a 4.5. I had Bacardi Superior at 5. There's just really nothing going on there. It's like drinking a slightly boozy limeade, which is that's my, on the classic daiquiri front, that's when I'm just a little disappointed, is when it just tastes a little bit like limeade with a little bit of alcohol. I need more than that from the rum. I need more balance than that. And it doesn't really get there for me. So I'm going to give that one a 4.5.
Okay. It's strikingly similar to the Bacardi Superior. I just did like a real quick swig of both just because I couldn't help myself. But I think on its own, I prefer the Barceló. Just slightly in terms of between, not the daiquiri. I'm just saying the rum itself. I just did a quick swig just because it's so hard to find both of those in the daiquiris. I wanted to see what the rum tastes like. The Barceló is slightly more pleasing to me. We'll go back to the daiquiris in a little bit just to confirm where we're at. I give it, like I said, a 4. I think it's just kind of an average daiquiri, maybe slightly under in comparison to all the other ones. The Diplomatico Planas is a phenomenal drink.
Yes.
It's in the 9.5, 10 for me.
Yeah.
So if it's not a 10, it's like 9.5, and I'm kind of sitting in that range right now. I want to go back to the Havana Club 3 and really figure out where I want to go with it.
It's a 9.5 for me right now. I'm gonna put it at 9.5 for you. But I feel like I need to shake up like a fresh Havana Club daiquiri and really do them next to each other.
Yep.
With the caveat, of course, that for some people, Planas might not fit exactly into that classic daiquiri window. But I think the other thing here that we want to get at is a lot of this is about what do you recommend to people, right? Or what would you feel comfortable recommending to someone if they're like, well, let's say this is someone who, it's not a funky high ester rum drinker, and comes to you and is like, hey, I want to mix up some classic daiquiris, right? Not frozen, not slushy, not strawberry flavored, whatever, just the classic daiquiri. For that person, I would feel just as comfortable recommending Planas as I would Havana Club 3 in a fantasy world where we can buy Havana Club 3 in the United States. I wouldn't feel like I was pushing them into the realm of a completely different drink if I recommended them Planas, is what I'll say.
Got it. It's a really interesting thing because I completely agree, and I've recommended Planas for this purpose to many people for that reason, so I don't disagree with it. The real gray area, though, is it's like, well, are you setting them up to then expect that all daiquiris are like that? And is that even a consideration in your mind when you recommend it? Or are you just saying, look, you want a really great frickin' drink? This is what you make. Leave the name off. And that's a tough thing because, our brains naturally, we want to categorize things. We want to put them into their areas so that we can learn more and feel more confident in what we are experiencing, right? Label things, figure things out, give them their own space. And sometimes it's not as clean as that. And so it's a tough one because, like, are you ever, looking at these 8 rums, are you ever going to recommend Flor de Caña? Just curious. Would you ever recommend Flor de Caña for this purpose?
Yeah, I would.
I think I would also.
It would, because other things factor into that, like availability, price. I do think Planas is the most expensive out of these rums.
Yeah.
And I should point out a comment from Tim on the live stream that I had to laugh at, where he said, so after trying 8 rums, the winner is the higher ABV, older aged blend of pot column. I'm shocked, I tell you. We fell into the rum nerd trap, John, all along.
We did.
It was the older, the pot still, everything in there.
And it's a good point, and that's where I was coming to and what I was saying, which is essentially if you've got a rum geek, rum nerd, or budding rum enthusiast, a Planas daiquiri, which you can get Planas here readily in the United States, you cannot get Havana Club 3, would be a good recommendation. But if you're talking about someone who is very new to the category of rum, or who is in an area where even Planas might be difficult to find, you're probably going to be able to find Flor de Caña 4 next to your Bacardis.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting little kind of aside on its own in terms of like, where was I most surprised in this bracket? It was kind of that. I need to go back because we've now tried 8 different daiquiris. We've gone through it. It's an hour and a half or so that we've been at this. I want to kind of go through them all and come back to them and see if anything changes first. But as it stands right now, where we're at in the exercise, I think I was pretty surprised by the Flor de Caña. I was not surprised by the Bacardi Heritage being quite good. I was not surprised by the Havana Club 3 being quite good. And I was not surprised by the Diplomatico Planas being quite good. Also, the White Stache is very good as well. So, that's where I'm kind of trying to lead to your point of like, hey, what do you tell people and what did we glean from some of this exercise? I think that's an important piece and a takeaway.
Yeah. I think for me, the big surprise wasn't, I won't say there were any big surprises in terms of like which ones I ultimately preferred, but just in the difference, tasting the Havana Club 3 next to those other, the Puerto Rican daiquiris over here on this side of the bracket, I was not expecting that big of a gap between the amount of rum flavor in the drink as I ultimately ended up getting. And even like, it was almost like it was like it was less refined rum flavor in a way with the Havana Club. It was like, oh shit, this is kind of like, this doesn't taste like this super polished, super
Overwrought.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there was some rawness to it that I really appreciated and
I
really
agree.
liked in that one. It's probably, I would say, the rawest and I'm using all these subjective terms, but it's just even more so than like the Planas. The Planas, I would say, is like stronger because of that ABV lift, but the Havana Club 3 still just has this like rawness and immediacy to it that is really great. Which is why I don't, John, do you want to do it? I mean, it sounds like for us, I mean, obviously Planas over the Barceló, it sounds like Diplo is going to be the winner from this side. Any argument from you there?
No argument. So what are we thinking, Will? Do we do this last head-to-head here?
I say fuck it. We're here right now. Let's
Do it live.
Let's whip up a fresh Havana Club.
Let's do it. I've got
My
stuff
Planas
left.
is still pretty cold, so it's really just the Havana Club for me that I feel like I need to.
Part of me is almost sad to make another daiquiri with this Havana Club 3 because I don't know when I'm going to get another bottle and I'm down to about 40%.
Yeah.
So that is a little sad.
You got to make sacrifices for the podcast sometime.
The podcast demands it.
Man.
Tough one.
It is so tough to pick a favorite between those two.
Have you made up your mind with these yet? I'm getting close.
I think I have to. I think the king say the king,
I think you're right.
I think it's Havana Club 3.
There's something more to it, though. I really love the Planas, and I think, when you're not able to get the Havana Club 3 here in the U.S., the Planas is a great substitute, but it's not the same.
It's not the same at all.
And if you are really trying to experience what a daiquiri is and should be, I would almost go as far as saying, like, I'm not sure I knew a daiquiri before Havana Club 3. It's that much of a pronounced difference for me in terms of just the enjoyment level, the flavor profile that comes from it. It's just awesome in every way.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure there's a replacement for it.
I hate to say I agree with you. I do, because honestly, like, coming into this, I had this thought in the back of my mind that like Havana Club 3 was a little overrated, and it was just kind of like a romantic notion in people's heads. And also because it's, you love what you can't have, right? So for Americans, Havana Club 3, I think there's this mystique about it because we can't get it domestically, right? But after doing this lineup, it's truly a one-of-one rum in this whole field. And I would say Planas is as well, but the reason I give the edge to Havana Club 3 is because it has that edge to it. It has that rawness that in the rum flavor that Planas is just more. It's interesting because Planas has the pot still, but to me it's a more sort of refined overall flavor package than Havana Club 3 is. It's got the crisp, the refreshing, it's got all that classic daiquiri hallmarks, and Planas has them too, but it's just the type of rum flavor you get from this is a little more, it's a little more unrestrained, and
but it's not wild, right? It's not
wild.
No, it works like a Picasso painting or a Michelangelo piece, right? Everything is exactly where it should be.
Yeah.
But I agree with you in that because the missing piece in a lot of those daiquiris that we tried today, they were all fine and good, but to your point of some of them, you don't really get the rum component enough. And it feels like they're almost hiding that because there are some people's preference out there who may want to skew towards less rumminess, maybe. I'm just conjecture on that point, but With this one, you really feel like this is a 3-ingredient, 4 if you count water and dilution, cocktail. And hell, if you're going to have a 3-ingredient cocktail, have all 3 ingredients play their part and be stellar. And that's what Havana Club 3 is doing in spades. So we had some really good daiquiris today. I think they were very good. Some of them were maybe just fine. Others were really good. And then you had some stellar ones. And this Havana Club 3, and also I do think the Planas is really good, are just at another level for me.
Yep. For me, the Havana Club 3 and the Diplomatico Planas are in a top tier together. The Hamilton White Stache I would put on the next tier also by itself. And then I would have a tier of Bacardi Heritage and Flor Caña. And then I would have Bacardi Superior, Q Cristal, Barceló Blanco on the same bottom tier. Although between those three, I do think Q Cristal is the best and Barceló is the worst. I had that, on the DAC Brack, the official whiteboard here that we've got on video, I had to give the little crown to Havana Club 3. It's the queen of the bunch.
Yep,
and
agreed.
But it's comforting to know, to have compared it to all these, and really that's what allows you to see the difference, is doing this comparison. So I'd encourage anyone, you don't have to get all these rums, but I would definitely say if you can source them, getting Havana Club 3, Planas, any Bacardi Superior. The Bacardi Heritage is kind of difficult to source, but whether you get Bacardi Superior, Q Cristal, and then White Stache is great to have too. I would say those 4, if you taste them in a lineup, you will get this full spectrum of rums that I still ultimately feel like all fit into the classic profile, but you'll see the range there, and I'd love to hear your preferences. So if you try these, if you have any thoughts on what we've discussed here today, obviously.
Is there a rum in here that we should have had and we left out for whatever reason?
And I mean, ultimately there are. Methuselah and Platino was another one that
our livers can't handle all of them.
Brew all extra dry. But yeah, send us an email, host@rumcast.com, host@rumcast.com. You can also find us on social media. John, where can they find us?
At the Rumcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, and some other platform that I forgot the name of right now after 8 daiquiris.
X,
that's the one. Yeah, the one letter. Let us know how you're feeling on there. I have to say it's weird because, social media, we do see a lot of people that share some of the content that we have and forward it, and that's cool. We don't get a lot of comments, honestly. I don't know exactly why, but that's okay. If you don't want to comment, that's cool. But if you do want to comment, those are great places to leave one because everybody else can see it. When you send us an email, we see it. When you comment, everybody sees it. So just pointing that out.
That's why I like the emails, because the one-to-one conversation, it's just...
You would like the emails.
I owe some people some emails, by the way. We've gotten some very thoughtful emails about the DAC Brack. So, coming soon. But thank you to everyone who voted. We got some really great too many comments to really shout out in the voting. That was really helpful to us in assembling our brackets and determining, what would fit into each one. So thank you all for doing that.
Yeah.
And
thanks for those of you who joined us on the live stream. That was fun as well. So I appreciate you doing that.
Really appreciate the patrons for hanging out with us here on this Saturday afternoon. This was super fun, honestly, and I feel like I learned a lot about these rums. So hopefully y'all did too. And we're going to be sprinkling in DAC Bracks over the next few weeks we've got some interviews scheduled coming up that are going to be great. And we're gonna do the modern bracket. We're gonna do the cane juice bracket, the overproof bracket. So there's so much left to learn, John.
I agree. In fact, this one was the one that I had probably the most thoughts on how it would come out. The other ones, I kind of have no idea. I won't say no idea, but less idea in terms of where I think they'll go.
I'm just laughing because Richard said, "See you next year" in the comments. He's not accepting the cane juice overproof in modern daiquiri brackets. That's okay. We'll be here with those. But yeah,
The purists are
thank you
out
all.
there. That's all right.
Thank you all so much for joining. This has been a blast, and we'll be back soon.
Yeah.
But until
Or a
next
daiquiri.
time,
Cheers.
cheers, everyone.